Hi friends, welcome to my channel. This is the final and fourth video in a series of Christmas in July videos. If you haven't seen the other three, go check them out. And as always, I hope you enjoy the show. And if you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, I'd love it if you click that button. For this project, I'm using Dollar Tree's little wooden rectangles that you can buy in a package, and I'm just measuring them to be in half. I think it's about 3 inches, and I'm using my great little saw. If you want to know where I got this saw, it is down below in my description box. There's a link. I think it comes like after I list my products. I think it comes maybe the third one down. I want to show you how awesome it is. I was off on one of these because I had to cut 3, and I just needed to take a sliver off, and look at this. Oh, isn't that awesome? I mean, I just wish I'd got this a long time ago. If you craft regularly, this is a must-have. It's not even that expensive. It comes on sale for, I believe, under $70 sometimes. You just have to put it in your little shopping cart and wait for it to come on sale, but it's a great deal. And it's so helpful. Oh my gosh, I really want to kick myself to the moon and back for not getting these sooner. So these little pieces here came from a craft I did last Christmas, and I am using them now. Waste not, want not. So I just filed off the paper a little bit on the front so it wasn't too jagged, so that the surface is nice and smooth. And now I'm just using white acrylic paint from Apple Barrel, and we're going to give each one of these one coat of paint. Hey friends, you can also follow me on these social networks. Facebook, you can share your crafts as well, and I post more there, and you can get to know me better there. The link is in my description box. So I blow dry these just to get them started, and then I set them aside and we start working on the wood pieces. I'm painting this one in the color Flamenco Red. It's by Apple Barrel Paint in matte, and I'm just going to paint the sides and the top and the little piece underneath it as well. The next one I paint in the color English Ivy Green. Again, it's Apple Barrel Paint, and the last one I paint in black. Now I am using these awesome face stencils that I got from Temu. They were in a package, I think, of 10, and they were so cheap, like $2 or something like that. And they just are a bunch of different snowman faces. I will mix them up sometimes, the different eyes, different noses with different faces. So you actually have a choice of more than just what they give you because you can mix and match. But I'm using these as they are. There's my first little snowman face. And this is going to be my second one, and of course the one up at the top is going to be my third. My favorite method for doing faces like this, whether it's a gingerbread man, a snowman, Santa, is to start off with permanent markers because it really helps me stay in the line. I am going to be painting these faces, but I just think that's a great little craft tip there, is just to start with the same color and a marker, and you can always go over that with a little bit of paint without going to the very, very edge, and it just makes for a cleaner finished final result. And this is what they look like so far. So now I'm just taking a fine tipped paintbrush and I'm going to go ahead and fill these in. I did add some eyebrows to the 2 guys right there because I felt like they were missing something. And that's another thing with stencils. They're a great starting place. Not only can you mix and match, but you can also add too. But I am just not good at drawing. I've said this many times in my video. I'm not good at drawing in general. I'm getting better, but I'm not. Some people can draw, like my husband is an artist. He can draw amazing things, like almost like a computer did it. I used to be a stick people kind of person. If you have to draw like a person, they were stick people. So I've come a long way, but yeah, I definitely suggest you keep practicing, but stencils are very helpful. So here is the little carrot nose. Again, same thing. I'm just going to take a permanent marker, trace it out in orange this time, and then we're going to use some orange paint to fill in the nose. And to add a little bit more life and realism to this and just personality, I decided to add some little white dots in the eyes of two of them. Well, you can't really add it into the other one because his eyes are squinting, he's laughing. But on the other ones, I think it looks good. It makes them come alive. Sometimes I don't like it. If I want a snowman to look very kind of rustic or something, I'll just leave it a black dot, but these are going to be playful. So I filed that down a little bit, and now I'm going to add the hats. If you didn't guess, those are the hats, and you can see I've already glued the other ones down. This is just, for me, I found it was better to glue it on the back, then glue the rim of the hat on the front, and it left just a little tiny gap, and that worked great for pushing the ribbon down that I'm going to put on their hats next. So for me, that was a great little hack there. I mean, if you decide to use these pieces, they still sell this little window at the Dollar Tree. If you decide to use these pieces for the same thing I'm doing, the little snowmen like this, I also used one of these to make a snowman and put him in the middle of a snowflake for a front door winter decor piece. So these are Dollar Tree ribbons, right? The two of them are, and then the burlap one I got from Temu. The plaid one was Dollar Tree, and I cut that thinner so that it would blend in with the other ones, but we're just gluing them halfway around the back. You're not going to see the back of these little snowmen. Aren't they cute? That's what they look like so far. And now I'm just adding my embellishments. I realized with these hats, it's really important with the whole project to balance the snowmen out so you don't have too much of a repetitive color or a repetitive look or a repetitive face. Everyone should have their own little personality here, each one of these little snowmen. Tell me what their names should be. A bunch of you did that in my last video. I loved it. But I did berries and green. Like if the hat was green, I tried to pull in red. If the hat was red, I tried to pull in green and white, something to break it up. And the black, I definitely had more freedom with. But yeah, bells, berries, pine, snowflakes, everything and anything. And now I'm just adding the little realistic lines on the carrots on the nose. Next, I'm taking some antique wax and a little Doppler sponge, and I'm just gonna edge each one of these little snowman's faces. I like to do this. I think it gives them a little bit more dimension and helps them pop a little bit. You can skip this if you want, but I think it makes them look super cute. So that's what I did. And now I'm using some of the Dollar Tree lipstick, and I'm giving them little rosy cheeks. I love this trick. It's kind of a foolproof trick so you don't mess up their cheeks, but it's supposed to be cold outside. And if they have rosy cheeks because it's cold, of course they have to have the frost or the snow, however you want to think of it, on their hat. So I actually live where it snows, and when you make a snowman and you put a hat on it, it really does get all frosty and white like this overnight, just from the moisture in the air. It is so pretty. So I love to do this to my snowmen, but I'm doing it on the edges, on the top, and the rim, and even underneath the rim. And if you mess up, it's super easy to fix. You just take a nail file and sand off the frost and add it however you want it. I even added some to the top of their little carrot noses. Aren't they cute? Oh my gosh. So this is a Dollar Tree sign, and I'm not going to paint it. I'm not going to do anything. I figured these guys were just colorful enough. I wasn't even going to, well, at first I was going to do snowflakes, and I thought, no, I'm not even going to do that. I don't want to distract away from the snowmen at all because they're so cute. So I put the red one at the top because I wanted him to pop. Since it's Christmas time, I wanted the red to be the first statement piece. And the reason they don't have neck scarves on yet is because I knew I needed to glue them down first so I could judge the distance between the neck and the hat right below it. So here's where I choose to use the same ticking stripe material for their neck and kind of tie it in so that they're all cohesive and one little snowman family, just with different, I just want the hats to be different. I thought that was kind of cool just to make the scarf the same. And I know I will get a question about that pink spatula you see at the top that I use for hot glue. That is found in the makeup section at the Dollar Tree. You have to find the pink one now with the spatula on both ends because the original ones I recommended over the last 4 years are garbage. They changed them. I think it's mostly plastic, but the hot glue sticks. So I frayed their little scarf on the end, and that's it. We're all done. And I think these guys came up so cute. Would love to know what you guys think. Oh my gosh, this is a totally fun project. I'm using air dry clay for this, but full disclosure, this stuff is really hard as a rock until it warms up, and it takes a pretty long time for it to warm up, so it was difficult to work with. And I would highly recommend that you guys check out my video on faux wood beads. I use a salt dough recipe. It was a huge hit in the day because those wood beads had just come out and they were stupid expensive. So this was a way you could make them for pennies on the dollar. They looked awesome, and it does dry out. It will dry out in the air. It may take a little bit longer, but you know, I wasn't in any hurry. I can have this little thing that I made sitting on my shelf for a year if that's how long it takes to dry out. It doesn't take that long, but I meant if it did. But I think it would have looked more real because it uses flour, and of course flour is like real, that's what real pie crust is made out of. So we are making a little pie today, or a tart, whatever you want, and I thought this little dish from the Dollar Tree would be perfect. And so after I finally got some decent, you know, I was rolling there and it finally came out decent, I thought, you know what, we're just stick it in here. And at first I thought, I'm just going to do the sides because you're not going to see the bottom. We could save the clay. And I thought, Holly, you don't want to save the clay. You don't like the clay. You don't want to work with the clay again. You don't even want to rebuy it. You don't. So plus it was drying out. I had opened it a while ago. So I thought, nope, we're just going to go ahead and pull, you know, make this like you make your pies, like your real pies. And you're going to put the whole thing inside there. So because I said it was drying out, the edge there was already kind of drying out, I tried to do a pie crust on the side, that pretty fluted edge, but unfortunately it was too dry. So I decided to take some fresher clay from deeper down in the package and just roll it out in strips. You can see the strips up at the top there, and you know, press that down in little segments. And that tool from the Dollar Tree there that you can see, there's like 3 plastic knives that come. They're probably for working with clay or maybe spackling. I don't know, but they're turning out to be an excellent craft, like essential. So 3 for $1.25, you can't beat that. And I'm using it to press down because it's definitely easier than your fingers. And I felt like since this was like a mini version of a pie or tart, the fingers were just too big. So that made those pretty little fluted edge. And if you mess up on the corners, you just cut that part off or smush it back a little bit and get a nice clean edge for the next segment of clay that you put in. And just in case anyone is wondering whether or not the salt dough attracts ants, no, it does not. They don't like salt in your cupboard, and they don't like that either. So there I go right there with my last little segment, and you can see that I'm aiming to put the edge of the dish in the middle of that strip so that the crust drapes over on the sides and drapes over inside the dish equally so that it looks more real. And I'm finishing it off. Now I'm just patting it around the edges so that it's nice and even and circular. And then I'm taking a Dollar Tree knife. This is an actual knife from Dollar Tree, and I'm just trimming off any excess and evening it out so that it looks nice along the edge. The reason I told you to put the little fluted edge halfway down the side and halfway on the side on the inside is because it looks more real that way, I guess. So that's how I recommend you do it rather than just sitting it on the edge. Plus, if it dries out, it might cave in. So if you have it flopping over the edge there, you don't have to worry about that. This is my first time working with the clay, so I wasn't sure. And now I'm going to the really moist clay right here. We stopped messing around. I went to the very end where the package was still covering it, and I'm cutting really thin slices. And I'm going to be using that for the top of this, but I'm going to set it aside for now. I'm just cutting it to get it ready. I put all of that inside a bag so it doesn't dry out. And then I'm going to take, yes, I'm holding a brush in my mouth. I use every tool I have at my disposal when I'm crafting. This is the color beige and khaki from Apple Barrel Paint, by the way. That's the mix that I did. And if I added some more beige, it would have been, I think, even more perfect now that I see it on film. Don't get me wrong, I love the way that this came out, but I can see, like with anything else in life when you're doing things, what you could have done differently next. You know what I will do, I'm going to make some more of these, they're so cute, what I could do differently next time. So here's the cherries. I bought these at Temu last Christmas. I went to look for dried cranberries on Amazon, cherries, anything. I couldn't find anything on Amazon, and I couldn't find anything at the Dollar Tree either, but In the past, I have seen the Dollar Tree carry grapes. You could absolutely buy those and paint them, or sometimes they might be the right color red and it would just look like a cooked, well, I wanted red because I'm doing this for Christmas. I wanted it to be festive, but depending on what you want, the grapes would absolutely work. You could use a little bit of maybe a pool noodle or that floral foam, cut them in like wedges and paint those to look like apples, probably using the same color I'm using here. The mix of these two colors, that would probably make a nice apple piece if you wanted to make an apple pie. Totally up to you. That would be cute for fall. I've seen those for fall. That would be totally cute. I don't know if I've seen anybody use foam that you paint like that, but if you actually cut it out to look like real apple wedges, put a little bit of like burnt umber around the edge so they look like they're baked apples. Oh my gosh, that would be, with cinnamon on them, that would be so cute as a pie or a tart. But anyway, I am just putting these cherries in so that they're in place. And then I decided to dribble my Mod Podge down, making sure it ran all the way to the bottom. And I just did it in different layers to make sure, first I checked to make sure I had enough cherries, because obviously you would have to add something at the bottom of the pie to lift them up if you did not. Now I'm just adding the Mod Podge all the way just to hold everything in place. So I just flashed a quick glimpse of the glitter and some Epsom salt there. That's what I'm going to put on the top of this pie. You don't have to do this. I just thought it would look a little bit more real. In hindsight, if I had to do it again, I would absolutely use just regular table salt, because when I make my pies, I just use regular sugar. I don't use the rock, like crystal sugar. And to buy the faux one, it's very expensive, and I always try to keep everything cost effective for you guys. That's why I recommend the salt dough, because it would be pennies, and I recommend salt and cinnamon. Just rub some cinnamon on that crust, all around. You could use paint if it's not dark enough. If anybody, watching today has tried the cinnamon trick with like the clay or the salt dough, let me know how it came out, if it worked for you, if it was dark enough, if it made it look like it had been cooked in an oven. But today we are definitely just sticking with the nutmeg brown to do that. So I did have to paint the edge again because I decided to put a little lattice top on top of this because I thought that would look so adorable. So those strips that I saved in my little bag that I told you guys about right there, I'm now working with them and cutting them to make that little lattice top. And so since I already have grooves, like the little fluted edge that I spoke about earlier on the sides, those are already starting to dry and become kind of hard. So the way I handled that is just to blend the dough, not the dough, clay, into the little pre-existing groove and just make it super, super thin and attach it that way and just make it all become cohesive. You'll see it in a bit. Just make it all come together. You can see it right there. That's what I'm doing. And it was a kind of a long process, so I'm speeding it up just so you can see it. If you need to slow it down, you can actually adjust the speed on YouTube videos to whatever speed you want. You can speed me up, you can slow me down, whatever you need, but I'm just putting it there in case somebody does need it. But that's all I'm doing is just, and I'm using water. I'm dipping that little tool inside some water to the right. That helps spread the clay kind of thinner so that it just disappears into the already pre-existing fluted edge and looks awesome. So now I'm taking more of that khaki and beige and I'm adding it to the top. We're finishing painting this to make it look obviously like a pie crust. So this is definitely a work in progress because it hasn't dried all the way yet, so I can't really seal it with a clear varnish or a polyacrylic, and I can change things. And I feel so blessed to have YouTube because I do actually have a YouTube family where I can ask you guys what you think. So please leave a comment down below. Do you think I should paint it lighter? Try the cinnamon trick? Do you think I should not add, like right now I'm adding the nutmeg to make it look kind of toasty? But even with all this, and I'm not bragging, but so far I feel like this is the best one I've seen online, and maybe that's because I made it to look like the pies that I actually make in real life, so I can relate to it. It just looks real to me, and I think it's absolutely adorable. A highly recommended craft, so cute. I don't know if I want to add some Christmas ribbon on the dish. Again, would love your feedback, maybe some holly and berries or just a holly leaf on top, just to make it look more Christmassy. But we're just cleaning off the paint with a baby wipe and some leftover clay. That's it, and we're all done. For this project, I'm going to use a Dollar Tree styrofoam cone and a soup can, and I'm going to start by taking the wrapper off of the cone. So you can see right there I'm checking for a fit, and it's a good fit. So I'm using some wood glue. You don't have to use wood glue, but it is a little bit stronger than school glue, and I'm looking for a really strong hold here without melting or damaging the styrofoam, and even hot glue on low heat might cause some damage. So since I want the seams to be almost seamless, I'm being extra careful by using a cold glue. So to keep it in place so that I can keep moving, I'm going to go ahead and use some masking tape and just secure it in different places. I was going to make 2 of these, so I'm going to show you the way I applied the glue for the second one in case you find this is easier for you. I just put the glue on the actual styrofoam on the edge, and then I put it down on top of my can. So I don't really want the ridges in the can to show, so I'm using some cardstock and I'm measuring it just to cover my cans. Literally, I'm going to cut it and then just wrap it around the cans so that you don't see the ridges anymore and the surface is flat. You could also use poster board to do this as well. And that's what it looks like when you're all done. Next, I'm using some foil. You can also get the foil at the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to wrap this tree up. So first I measure to make sure that I have enough foil to go all the way around. And now I'm just cutting it down. And remember, at first I was going to make 2 of these, but I decided I want to do something different with the other tree. You'll see in another video. But for this video, I'm doing the foil. So I'm just wrapping it around to start with. And once you get it nice and kind of snug on there, you just press down like you see me doing here. You just literally, you're squishing it down and just pressing it into the whole shape of your little cone tree. So this is a method that I used for several different trims, frames. I love this method, and I thought, I wonder what this would look like as a Christmas tree. So we're going to do the hot glue method where you're just making little squigglies everywhere. I'm just twirling it, making dots, making swirlies, making all kinds of different designs. This is almost error proof. You cannot go wrong with this, you guys. You do not have to be talented. This does not require any skill. You just have fun. Even when it's kind of messy and not perfect, it's going to look nice. And you just go about making different designs on your foil. That's it. That's all you're doing. And you can skip the part of covering this with foil. It's not necessary because you have the designs already right there. So you just go straight to painting it with whatever color paint you want. I'm using white acrylic paint from Apple Barrel. Next, I'm using the color Khaki by Apple Barrel Paint, but you could use whatever color you want. This would look pretty in, like, I think a darker green if you want to go with a green tree. If you want to go with a gold tree, a silver tree. I'm actually making this for a friend that has neutral Christmas decor, so this is what they requested. So I give it a good dry, and then after that I take white acrylic paint. It's just regular old white acrylic paint from Apple Barrel, and I'm just kind of toning everything down where I got too much of the khaki paint. Next, I'm going to hold up some cardstock just to protect my surroundings as I spray this with hairspray. That's what I'm sealing this in because it's very gentle, but I had better luck with half of a poster board. I just didn't have any extra poster board, but I used to just take a poster board from Dollar Tree, cut it in half, and then bend it like a book, put it up, and shield it that way. I'm going to do that again, but this worked. And it was just hard because, as you see, I had to keep stopping and twirling that around. And that is a Dollar Tree cutting board, by the way, just the plastic ones. It makes for a great, cheap, makeshift Lazy Susan. So I am taking some twine and wrapping it around my fingers. This is the thinner Dollar Tree twine. I'm just making a loop. I probably went around maybe like 15 times, and I do 2 of those. You just tie them in the middle. They're super easy to do. You might notice the top of the tree looks a little damaged. That's because I glued a big rusted bell on top and it looked terrible. It looked really top heavy, so I took that off. So now I'm just going to do this twine bow. I'm going to go ahead and glue it together like that. I just want to make sure when I held it up that it covered the damaged styrofoam, because we were dealing with a little bit of a different situation at that point. So I put the, I hold it in place. You can see I'm taking my fingers and kind of spreading it out and holding it in the position so it looks almost like a little twine flower, and we're going to let it dry like that. Next, with my hot glue gun on low heat so that I don't totally dissolve the foam, I'm going to go ahead and glue it on top, and I hold it in place until it dries. So I'm also being really careful not to add too much on top of the tree because it is in a neutral color and it's kind of dainty looking, and I didn't want to overwhelm it, make it top heavy. So I'm adding a little tiny bit of pine. Those are some Dollar Tree foam berries that come with their picks, their flower picks. I'm going to cut some of those off carefully. Now, they're almost impossible to remove without cutting the foam where it shows. Like, don't get discouraged if you try to remove those berries and cut them and make them smaller and you suddenly have sides of them showing with the white foam. It is such an easy fix, you guys. You just take a red permanent marker or even just a regular old red marker and touch up those spots or a bit of red paint, and you will never ever see them. And here I go right here. I'm just tapping it on because obviously some of the foam is showing. And now I'm taking a little bit of my lighter and just singeing off any hairs very carefully. And then I decided that it did need one more piece of pine on it. I just felt like there wasn't quite enough. And then just to keep it in the neutral theme, because it is very light, I just went ahead and frosted the berries up, frosted the pine up. Didn't touch the twine, but it did come all together, and I love how this looks. Let me know what you think. For this project, I'm using the Dollar Tree charger plate. I love these. I love the little bumps around the edges. I think it gives it so much texture and makes it look more high-end. It kind of reminds me of those little wooden beads, those half beads that we use. They come in different sizes, so I often buy like the medium and the larger ones, but they do come in really tiny ones, and this is what they would look like if you use them and glued them on. So it's already all done for you, which is awesome. I'm giving this plate one coat in chalk paint. It's folk art chalk paint in the color Cottage White. I have a wonderful video on how to make your own chalk paint. Check it out down below in my description box. My husband bought me 3 of these, so I want to use them up. But after this, I am going to make my own chalk paint because it's definitely more cost effective. So I'm doing one coat. I'm giving it a good dry. This does end up needing 2 coats. So while that's continuing to dry, I have this free printable for you. It will be in my description box down below. Isn't it sweet? Oh my gosh, I love this. You know, I made about 5 different printables, and I will be getting them all out to you eventually, but for now we're using this one. And this one just stood out because it's so playful. I took some ticking stripe and I made it the frame. I thought that was so cute. That's Santa. So here we go with the second coat of paint, and you can see it's such a difference. Look at that. I definitely wanted a solid white. I didn't want to distress this one. Going for a completely different look for this DIY is just going to be nice and white and bright and playful with Santa. So I'm using my glue stick method. This is my favorite method. I am doing it on the paper this time just to give it a little extra oomph. Just in case it doesn't, because sometimes when I just put it on the plate, I miss spots. So I thought, well, if I put it on the paper and the plate, we can't go wrong. But even with that, I did need to go around the edges and places. So what I like to do when I glue down my imagery, I like to just start with one end of it and then slowly lay it down so it gives me an opportunity to get out the wrinkles, to add more glue, as I'm doing right there, because it's starting to dry out. The dry glue, the drier the glue, the less wrinkles you get. The drier the glue, the faster the glue dries out. So don't worry if you have to reapply it, it's no big deal. Now here's a first time trying this. This is a hairspray method. I have sealed crafts with this before, but I've never used it for the purpose of sealing in a craft, I guess a craft project with ink, because ink typically runs when you get it wet, but I wanted to see if it works. I usually use, so we're going to be Mod Podging this because I also want this to look shiny. I decided that. It just, in real life, it will look much better sealed in Mod Podge and all shiny and cute and sparkly. So I'm doing 3 coats of hairspray really generously. I'm drying them thoroughly in between to see if this works the same way as a polyacrylic spray does, because normally I will use a polyacrylic spray in matte or a clear varnish, and I'll go outside and I'll do 1 coat, then let it dry, then 1 more coat, let it dry, and then you're free. You've already got a shield of plastic on it, so you're free to put your Mod Podge on without worrying about it bubbling. So this is a great hack. See how I'm wiping away the antique wax? I just put some antique wax around the edge just to hide it so that you can't tell it's paper, but because there's hairspray on it, you're able to wipe that off of the actual paper. Normally, if you try to do that with a baby wipe, you're going to smear your ink, you're going to take off the paint on your, it's a mess. As they say, it's a hot mess. So a little bit of hairspray, perfect. And because this picture already has a little bit of a yellow tint, I am absolutely not worried about it yellowing 5 or 6 years down the road. I make so many crafts, and even if it did, it would just look vintage at that point. People could add some more distressing on the edge. So the reason for the hairspray was so that I could do this, the Mod Podge. I was very, very generous. I was very generous with the Mod Podge so that I could do feather light strokes without hitting the paper too much. And you can see me taking the Mod Podge off and putting it back into the little Mod Podge container with my sponge. So, if you do put too much on, it's not like you have to throw it away. You just scrape it off and turn your sponge sideways and put it back into the Mod Podge container. So that's it. We're all done, and you can see it didn't smear. It didn't do anything. So now we're going to dry it. It didn't even bubble at that point, but it does start to get some creases in it as I dry. So the antidote to this is you just take a wet sponge. It has to be a clean wet sponge. Don't use one that already has Mod Podge on it or anything sticky, because you'll lift the Mod Podge off like a skin. Just use a clean wet sponge, rinse if you have to, but you just press really, really hard down. Use your muscles and really, really press, and I promise you, you'll get all of the wrinkles out. You can also use the wet sponge to smooth the sides in case any Mod Podge feels uneven on the edges. And then we're just going to hit it with a blow dry again. And this time while it's drying, I'm ready with the wet sponge to press anything that starts changing or moving, even in the slightest. Now this method works for me. It's 100% flat. Mod Podge is kind of, if you guys have worked with it before, it's a little iffy. That's why a lot of people will go, oh, I loved ironing it. But when you're dealing with these kind of surfaces where they're recessed a little bit like a bowl, this is the next best method. And of course, the best thing to do is take it outside and seal it up with some proper varnish like a polyacrylic spray, and you won't have to deal with this at all. In fact, you can even stop after the spray, and if you want it to be a bit shiny, then just get a polyacrylic spray and a gloss. And oh my gosh, could you not picture this on a coffee bar? It is so cute and festive and so easy to do. If you enjoyed today's video and had fun, give it a big thumbs up, share the video, like the video, comment. I love you guys. And as always, until the next video, breathe deep, fret not, and do things that make you happy.